Welcome into Rob Wright's Genetics Pop Culture. And today we're going to talk about one of my favorite Christmas specials. It's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, the cartoon from 1966. I know there's a movie with Jim Carrey, and I think that's a funny movie. I know that Benedict Cumberbatch has done a remake of the cartoon into a movie. I haven't seen that, so I don't have an opinion about it. But I grew up watching the cartoon from 1966 every Christmas. It's one of my staples, along with Charlie Brown Christmas, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman. These were just staples of my childhood, and this was a big one. I dearly love this cartoon adaptation of the book, and today I'm going to tell you some facts about it. I'll show you some slides and talk about some of my favorite scenes. It's just a fun, funny cartoon that really tells you a little bit about what Christmas is really supposed to be about. So without further delay, let's get into some of these facts. This show had one of the iconic characters, actor and voice actor in it. You had Boris Karloff, who did the narration and did the voice of the Grinch. And then you had Thurl Ravenscroft, who was a magnificent singer, who was also the voice of Tony the Tiger and several other characters that we grew up with in our childhood. So really interesting way to start this cartoon and really interesting people in it. So here are some facts about it. So Boris Karloff changed his voice when he speaks for the Grinch. Originally, he was going to do the narrator's voice for the Grinch throughout it, but when the recording was complete, the highs in his voice were mechanically removed for the Grinch, and it gave him a gravelly voice heard in the finished version. So it kind of changed it. So interesting perspective on that. Boris Karloff, one of the great movie horror actors of all time. Thurl Ravenscroft, who I mentioned, who sang the song, is best known as Tony the Tiger for Frost and Flakes. And he was picked to sing the songs because his voice was extremely deep bass, which I think worked perfectly for the infamous song, "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." And no, I can't sing it as well as he did. The lyrics to the song, Bahu Forays, which is the song the Who sing, were made to imitate classical Latin. I did not know that. After the special aired, the studio received letters asking for the translation from people who believed them to be real Latin. So very interesting. I had no idea that it was Latin. I thought it was just nonsense, gibberish. But then again, Latin's no longer a spoken language. So what do I know? Anyway, through most of the short, the Grinch's eye color is red, indicating the bitter, misanthropic, and sneaky personality, which is what's so great about the Grinch. However, his eyes do turn blue at the end when he has the true meaning of Christmas, and he's rejoicing with the Who's, meaning that he has a change of heart, which I thought was cool. I never really picked up on that until reading about it. So that's another thing to pick up on when you watch the cartoon again. So look for those hits. Thurl Ravenscroft received no screen credit, unfortunately, for his singing. An oversight, Dr. Seuss tried to, reconcile. And he sent letters to every major columnist in America, identifying Ravenscroft as the singer on "You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch." He also sang part of the chorus on 2 other songs. Dr. Seuss was initially uninterested in animating this or any of his books due to his negative experience on the 5,000 Fingers of Dr. T. But Chuck Jones managed to persuade him. And we know Chuck Jones from Looney Tunes fame. Oh, man, I'm so glad he did the animation on this. I thought he did a brilliant job. Think about this. You have Dr. Seuss, the author, who's just a fantastic author, especially for children's stories. Chuck Jones doing the animation, Boris Karloff doing narration, and Thurl Ravenscroft singing songs. Does it get any better? That's pretty awesome. Anyway, much like the Coca-Cola sponsor plugs from A Charlie Brown Christmas, which we mentioned last year, so go watch that video if you want to learn about those. The original 1960s broadcast of How the Grinch Stole Christmas was sponsored by the foundation for full service banks and featured plugs for them at the beginning and the end of the special. Kind of interesting that banks would be sponsoring something, a story about somebody stealing everything from Christmas. Let's think about that for a minute. A bank is sponsoring a story about somebody stealing something for Christmas. I don't know. Just seems kind of odd, kind of funny. Anyway, these sequences were edited out of the subsequent airings in the 1970s following the FCC's rule regarding advertising within children's programming. So that went away pretty quick. After being lost for nearly 50 years, the plugs resurfaced in 2021 via YouTube and the Lost Media Wiki. So, hey, if you want to go look them up on YouTube, you can find them, which is great. Reaching to Max's foolishness, the Grinch at one point breaks the fourth wall. So this Max is one of my favorite characters. He's the dog, the lovable dog. And we'll talk about him some more, but there's a point in this where the Grinch breaks the fourth wall. He glances to the side and stares at the audience. It matches the famous gesture of Oliver Hardy, one of Chuck Jones's favorite actors. Jones also gives the gesture in various cartoons to both Bugs Bunny and Porky Pig, two of his most famous characters, which I think is cool. And I believe I do have screenshots of the awful idea that the Grinch gets where he breaks the fourth wall here. So Max's personality was based on a dog Chuck Jones had as a child, which his father continually tried to and failed to train. So untrainable dogs. Jones recalled that his father would stay up late into the night trying to get the dog to sit, but each time the dog would lose his balance and fall backwards, just as Max does when the Grinch uses him as a dummy in the Santa suit. He's also holding a mirror, which he can't hold very well in his mouth. So Cindy Lou Who closely resembles a little girl named Guinevere, including pigtails and pink pajamas for the 1953 Warner Brothers short Punch Drunk, which I think is interesting. And then she's, which was directed by Chuck Jones. Both characters were voiced by June Foray, which was really cool. A few songs into the action sequence a few songs were added to the action sequences to fill out the full 26-minute running time. The script adheres to the original Dr. Seuss book almost word for word, which I think is really cool. And that's one of the great things about this show and just its performance and why I like it so much. Anyway, let's look at some slides here. Hang on one moment. Let me present some of these. We'll look at this and I'll talk about some of the scenes that I like. All right, here we go. Beginning of the movie, and we are the special, and we see the Who's cutting down a Christmas tree, and then here's Whoville, and they're putting up the tree in the center of their village there, which is kind of cool. And you see the intro, and there's Cindy Lou with the Christmas wreath, and then here's the introduction to the Grinch. He just looks cool. He's different though than the books, and I've seen some other cartoons there's another cartoon with the Grinch in it where he's white instead of green. But I thought Chuck Jones took some liberties and made him into a wonderful character that we know and love today. There's this dog Max, who I love, there's an innocence about Max that I love in this. And then there's a Grinch with his red eyes staring. And he's talking about all the kids and their noisy toys. It reminds me of when I was a kid and some of the gifts that I would give that would sometimes drive my parents nuts. And I'll tell you one of them, my grandparents gave me a fireman's hat. And if you put the batteries in, it had a siren on top of it and would, had the flashing red light and the siren and and my parents cleverly never would let me put batteries in it ever again. So, as a matter of fact, they wanted me to leave it at my grandparents' house so that they would have to deal with it. But I brought it home, and they would never give me the batteries. So fun story. Anyway, he talks about that. He talks about their feast, which, wow, look at this long table. That's really cool. And their roast beast, which is wow, this looks really good, delicious. I don't know why he wouldn't like the roast beast. And there's Cindy Lou Who getting her little strawberry. And then he gets an idea of stopping Christmas, and lo and behold, Max falls into a snowbank. And who does he look like right here? I love this scene. Max looks like Santa Claus. And then the Grinch gets this awful idea. This is where he breaks the fourth wall. And we see him smiling at the camera. And you see his kind of the curled heart shape head that he has with his, I guess, his ears up there. But I think that's so iconic, that scene right there. And then I love the song, and he's making everything, and he has Max kind of stand in for him, which is kind of funny. He's making the Santa Claus suit. He's sewing it and creating the hat. And there he is with the costume all done, which I think is funny. And then he gets a sled, and Max thinks they're going for a ride, which I think is cool. And then, there's parts where Max is supposed to lead him down the sled, and the sled falls further than Max can be, and he's on the back, and like, I don't know what happened. And I love how he gives a little wave. It always cracks me up. That's what I love about Max. I love this scene where he does that, and he's supposed to be at the front leading it down, and he ends up riding on the back, which is hilarious. And then they go up the loop-de-loop, and this is on the loop, and he's like, okay, what are you doing? You weren't supposed to lead us up on the loop-de-loop, which is just hilarious. And then here's another iconic scene with the Grinch going down the chimney. I love this. I love just the playfulness of the Grinch as he's stealing all the Christmas presents. And then again, the mean one, Mr. Grinch, is played again, where he starts with the stockings here. And then he snake-like. That always kind of creeped me out as a kid. But it just fits the Grinch. He's so sneaky and sly and slimy, which I think is really cool. And we see him taking the stuff off the tree. And hey, guess what? He's going to take that roast beast. And then Cindy Lou Who catches him. And of course, he lies to her and then stuffs the tree up. And then I just love how it goes to other houses. He does the rings, which is just hilarious. And then he's playing with the toys, putting them in the bag, winds up the wind-up toys, which I always thought was one of my favorites. I love how he steals all the stuff. It's funny because he does all these ridiculous things, doing the hoops to the houses, doing the wind-up toys, the trains going right into the bag, which is hilarious. And the tree at the end, it's almost like an umbrella, which is just ridiculously funny. And unfortunately, he has Max pulling this whole sled, which is just awful. Poor dog, poor Max. That's the only thing I don't like about this. The only thing that's just likable with Max pulling a big sled and having to do that, that's just awful. But anyway, he gets up to the top and he's excited, thinking that he's beaten the Who's and beaten Christmas. Hey, there's no Christmas that's coming. And the voice right there in that moment also reminded me of Cesar Romero's Joker, for you Batman fans out there. I just had that weird image when I was a kid, thinking about that. Anyway, he goes to listen, and he hears the Who's singing their song, their Latin song. And Christmas comes, even without all the gifts and with all the commercialism and everything. And then the Grinch kind of has a change of heart. And look, he's starting to have blue eyes. He tries to stop, and then his heart grows as big as 10 Grinches plus 2. So 12 times the size. And I thought it was a cool scene. He lifts it up. The strength of 10 Grinches plus 2. And then they were riding back down, and Max is riding the car. I just love Max. And then the Grinch himself, once again, notice the blue eyes. He's cutting the roast beast. And guess who gets a slice? Yes, our boy Max. He gets a slice of the roast beast, and he's cutting it for everybody. And you see that he's accepted in the community, which is pretty awesome. I mean, that's, Christmas isn't about all the gifts. It's about being together and family and love. And obviously, it doesn't say this in here, but it's the birth of Jesus. And just such a wonderful, redemptive story. And so we get the last shots of Whoville. But anyway, that is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. What are your favorite memories? What are your favorite scenes of the show? Is this something you watch every year like me? I have to watch it every year. It doesn't matter. I always have to watch, and it's this version of it. How does it rank against the other versions? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And hey, we'll see you in the next one.